Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Friday. You made it to the end of the week. Your reward is 2 hours today of sports talk here on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our streaming video channels, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, WIBW News on Facebook. My name is Dan Lucero. Delighted to be with you, however, wherever, and whenever you are checking out the show today. Thanks so much for being a part of 580 Sports Talk. 2 hours of sports talk today. We're going to break away at 5 o'clock for some more Westwood One coverage of the NCAA Tournament. Because, let's be honest, many of you have knocked off a little early or taken a little extra time for the sake of following the March Madness these last 2 days. Why should we be any different here at 580 Sports Talk? So we're going to shut the mics off at 5, go home for the weekend, and we will let you listen to the madness throughout the rest of the afternoon, evening, and well into the night here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. Again, I am Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis will be along in a bit. Brendan Dworzinski is off today. We'll get you caught up on what has been happening in the NCAA tournament. There are 4 games that are final. There is a 5th game that is at halftime. There is a 6th game in the final minute of the first half, and 2 other games set to tip off here momentarily. And it's not just your imagination. This has been a more exciting NCAA tournament, at least first 2 days of the NCAA tournament already, than we ended up getting last year. And we've got the numbers to back that up. Also, the Kansas Jayhawks play tonight. Their first round game in the NCAA tournament. The Jayhawks against the Lancers of Cal Baptist. That is tonight, an 8:45 scheduled tip-off. And we'll break that one down a little bit, talk about what Kansas is going to have to do if they would like to avoid the upset and advance to round 2 against tournament first-timers from Cal Baptist later on tonight. So plenty of tourney talk today. How's your bracket looking? Tell us about it. Complain about it if you want. In the live chat on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk, or on our text line, 785-272-9429. I'm the only person in your life that's going to ask you how your bracket is doing. I care if nobody else cares. So let me know. How's it looking? Final 4 still intact? How about your Elite 8? How's that looking? 785-272-9429. You can also lock in with us in the live chat on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. In addition to tourney talk, we're going to get to some Chiefs today. The second wave of free agency. Chiefs still have some needs. What players might be reasonable fits at a reasonable cost that could help make the Chiefs a better team and aren't just low-budget flyers that the Chiefs could take. 2 real obvious positions the Chiefs could upgrade still right now, even before you get to the draft. And one name that ESPN's Nate Taylor has already floated out there that apparently there's a lot of connection, a lot of smoke for a connection between the Chiefs and this veteran defensive end. So we'll get into that. And also, because it is a Friday after all, Matt Derrick is going to join us to make sense of the start to free agency for the Chiefs, and maybe we'll ask him that question about what the Chiefs' second wave of free agency is going to look like. Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider from ChiefsDigest.com, is going to be joining us at the bottom of this 3 o'clock hour. We look forward to bending Matt's ear. We didn't get to talk to him last week because of state basketball, so glad to have Matt back with us on 580 Sports Talk today. And we'll get into a little baseball as well. We are 1 week from Royals opening day. 1 week, 7 days from a Royals game that counts. They've got today and tomorrow in the Cactus League, and that's it. Then there are exhibition games that they'll play in Texas Monday, Tuesday. And then the games will count starting next Friday, 1 week from today. The Royals will be taking on the Atlanta Braves in Atlanta. So we'll get to some baseball as well. Don't have time for a ton of shenanigans on the show today, but I promise we'll have some. We'll crown a weekly champion on what is wrong with you. We'll get to On Second Thought and more. Plus, of course, your interaction. As I mentioned, the text line and the YouTube chat are open for your use. We look forward to hearing from you on this Friday. One more time, that text line, 785-272-9429. I say one more time. I'm going to give that number again. Let me be honest. I'm going to give it again. 785-272-9429. See, I just did. Also, if you are watching live with us on YouTube today, name of the channel, 580 Sports Talk. Hop on into the chat, say hello, and interact with your fellow listeners and your host as we blaze a trail through the sports landscape on this Friday. I see Paul in the chat. Mark H is in. Vance is into the chat. Ryan, I see as well. Good to see you guys. Thanks for being a part of the chat. The chat right now appears as an ongoing tribute to the late, great Chuck Norris, who passed away earlier today. Chuck Norris, 86 years old. I always think of the clips that Conan O'Brien used to show, the random Walker, Texas Ranger clip that he would show on his late night show, Conan O'Brien, back when he was hosting on NBC. That's my Chuck Norris memory. That and him giving the thumbs up at the end of Dodgeball, and of course the memes, because there were so many memes. There were lots of memes, and the chat right now is a tribute to the memes. So I respect that. I appreciate that. So thanks for being a part of the show today. And again, just 2 hours today to hang out, but let's make the most of it. Let's jump right in. Catching you up on what has gone down in the big dance so far today, in case you have missed any of it. We had chalk in the first 4 games of the day, though that kind of undersells how dramatic things got, in particular in the Kentucky-Santa Clara game. You won't see a better 10 seconds of basketball than the final 10 seconds of regulation, where Kentucky's Otega Owe scored to tie it. Then Santa Clara went down, hit a 3 with 2.4 seconds left that looked like it might deliver Santa Clara the upset win. Their coach, Herb Sendek, frantically trying to call a timeout. The officials didn't hear it, didn't see it, and that allowed Kentucky to go down the floor. Otega Owe banking in a 3 from about 40 feet at the buzzer to send the game to overtime, and Kentucky took over the overtime from there. Santa Clara got in the mind of, why can't we just shoot more threes over their much taller and springier defenders? And kept getting their three-pointers blocked. They were out of steam in the extra session. Too bad for the Broncos. Kentucky survives. Texas Tech beat down Akron. I know a lot of you had Akron on your brackets. A lot of you looked at that and said, Texas Tech can't win a tournament game without JT Toppin. And we're riding with Akron. Christian Anderson looks A-OK. And Texas Tech is moving on. They handle the Zips by 20. 91-71 was final there. Number 1 seed Arizona pounded LIU 92-58. Unlike the number ones that played yesterday, there was no playing with the food for the Wildcats. My pre-tournament pick to win the whole thing as they crushed the Sharks. And then Virginia did beat Wright State, but they had to make a run late to pull ahead and pull away for the 82-73 win. Number 3 seed Cavaliers actually trailed that game at the intermission. 2 games at halftime. Number 2 seed Iowa State crushing Tennessee State 55-29, and they're doing it without Justin Jefferson, who injured himself early in the game, looked like a left leg injury. He is being called doubtful to return. That's not good. Questionable would at least make you think, okay, well, maybe it's not something super serious. If they're going with doubtful, I would not expect to see Jefferson on the floor on Sunday for Iowa State's next game. And that would be a big blow to the Cyclones' chance of advancing. We know if they win, and they will, they're up by 24 at halftime, they will play Kentucky. And they will need a little bit of size because Kentucky, they ain't much else, but they're big. They're long. Joshua Jefferson's big for Iowa State, and he's their best player, I would argue. And they will miss him if he is not able to return Certainly doesn't look like they're going to need him today, but boy, if he can't play Sunday, that's a big, big loss for them. Meanwhile, Alabama getting all they can handle from the pride of Hofstra. 2-point Crimson Tide lead. Hofstra led, I think, by as many as 9 in the first half. It's a 37-35 lead for the Crimson Tide, and they are just underway in the Villanova-Utah State game that I am trying to put on the TV in front of me in the studio. If you could watch, if you're watching me on the YouTube stream right now, you can see me manipulating a remote control. Just trying to pull up that game. It is just tipped off. Utah State with former coaching candidate in Manhattan, Jared Calhoun. Let's call him that. Sure sounds like he was probably the first choice for Gene Taylor in Manhattan, but slow played it a bit because of the NCAA tournament, and sounded like K-State wanted to move a little faster, which is understandable. But anyway, Gerard Calhoun and Utah State are taking on Villanova. It's an early Utah State lead. By early, I mean the game is, as I'm watching it, 80 seconds old. The next game to tip off after that is going to be Miami of Ohio against Tennessee. That one tips off in about 8 minutes or so. And the rest of the day lays out like this. 5:50 tip-off between Iowa and Clemson. These are all scheduled start times. Things could get moved if games run a little late. I imagine they're running a little long at the Kentucky Santa Clara site. 6:10 tip between St. John's and UNI, Northern Iowa. UCLA and UCF at 6:25. At 6:35, it'll be Purdue and Queens University. Not a New York school. They are from Charlotte, North Carolina. The late window, number 1 seed Florida against Prairie View, UConn and Furman, Miami and Mizzou. That one, I don't know how St. Louis ended up getting the latest scheduled game, but it is what it is. And then, of course, also in that late window with a scheduled tip time of 8:45 in San Diego, the Kansas Jayhawks, number 4 seed in the South region, or the East region, taking on the number 13 seed Cal Baptist. And what fascinates me about the Kansas-Cal Baptist matchup is that Cal Baptist has size, and they go to the glass, and that's really where they eat. They score in the interior. They offensive rebound better than just about any team in the country, and they get a lot of second chance points. So if you're Kansas, I think it's a pretty straightforward assignment in this game. Figure out a way to keep the Lancers off the offensive glass. Be tougher than they are on the boards. I think at their toughest, Kansas can do that. You don't always see some of that grit, some of that toughness, but maybe this tournament setting brings the best out of Kansas in that regard. And Flory Badunga is obviously going to be critical in that department. Bryson Tiller, he keeps coming up. Everybody talking about KU's fortunes in the tournament. When we talked to Michael Swain earlier this week, he mentioned him too. Bryson Tiller is going to be an X factor. He's capable, but he's also just a freshman. So you get the highs and you get the lows with him. But Tiller has to play well. He has to be physical. He has to be a force on the glass. He has to be helpful defensively on the interior because Kansas is going to need his minutes. There's not much else coming off the bench. Bill Self looks like he'd rather volunteer for a colonoscopy than play Paul Mbia. So it's just Flory and Tiller in the post. And so that increases the importance of what Tiller can give as a post player. Even if he's not, you hear post player, you think, okay, yeah, back to the basket. Yeah, obviously that's not really Bryson Tiller's offensive game, but he is going to need to play big in this tournament. If Kansas is going to play more than one game in this tournament, Bryson Tiller is going to have to play big. And I think probably win without him playing great today, but certainly they got a lot more margin for error if they are able to keep Cal Baptist off of the offensive windows. And Tiller is a massive, massive part of that. So everybody you talk to says he's the most important guy. And then the other guy, obviously to watch, needs no introduction. Everybody knows that about Darren Peterson. That this is the stage that all of the great ones shine upon. A.J. DeBonce's team lost last night. I told you I had a good feeling about Texas. I didn't have a great day picking games yesterday, but I gave you a couple of 11 seeds that pulled off first-round upsets. VCU, big shout-out to Hubert Davis. I hate North Carolina basketball. I hope they keep Hubert Davis forever. Sign him to a lifetime contract. I love watching that dude trick off tournament games. It's the best. They had a 19-point lead. He is such a bad coach. I hope they keep him forever. That's a vestige, by the way. I grew up. You guys, I think I probably told this story. I grew up a Duke fan. Don't hold it against me. Don't get mad. Don't send flaming bags of dog poop to the front door of our studios. Let me live, all right? Listen, I got a reason for this. I was 4 years old. One of the first sports things I can remember attending in my life, Final Four practice at the old McNichol Sports Arena in Denver. That was Duke, Georgia Tech, Arkansas, UNLV were the Final Four that year. UNLV ran Duke off the floor in the title game. But in my head, those were the four coolest teams in the world because I got to see them in person. I got to see them practice at McNichols. I think we were sitting in the upper deck, but I was there, and I got to see them. And I knew my folks pointed out to me where the Duke team hotel was. So I knew where they were staying. I thought that was cool. And then they were on TV the next year. So oh, yeah, Duke, I remember them. That's how you pick allegiances when you're 5. And like, my parents went to Pepperdine, okay? That's not exactly a basketball powerhouse or an athletic powerhouse. So that was not like I did not have allegiances foisted upon me by my parents. I got to pick them myself. So that's how, as a 5-6-year-old kid, I ended up a fan of the Duke Blue Devils. Christian Laettner, Bobby Hurley, Grant Hill, all those guys you hate, love those guys. Loved those guys. I saw Bobby Hurley in the airport, KCI, before Big 12 Media Day this year, and it was everything I could do not to get up and tell him, hey, you were my favorite player when I was 6. I didn't want to make him feel old. He's kind of an irascible character. And now I'll never get the chance because he's not the coach at Arizona State anymore. Missed the opportunity. But that was my team when I was a kid, okay? And I don't feel that way about Duke anymore. I didn't go to Duke. The last Duke team I had any real feelings about was the team that won it all in 2010, the Shire, Singler, Nolan Smith team. Lance Thomas, and the big kid, Zubak. That was the starting 5. And they played one other guy, and they won the title that year. That was the last time I felt anything about a Duke team. I cover the sport now. I watch a lot of Big 12. I covered Wichita State before that. When you really cover a sport, it alters whatever allegiances you might have had, changes your relationships to your actual favorite teams. And to the point where, like, my collegiate fanhood was pretty arbitrary anyway. So it was kind of an easy thing for me to just say, yeah, I'm moving on. Like I don't have any Duke gear, right? Like I'm not out here turning on the Blue Devils and following them start to finish. It's not really my get down. That's how I was when I was a kid, but things change. Anyhow, you know what doesn't change? Hating North Carolina. I might not like Duke anymore, but I still hate North Carolina. It's the same thing in football. I grew up a Michigan fan. That was arbitrary too. I don't really root for the Wolverines like that. I don't really feel things for Michigan football the way that I used to feel things about Michigan football. Back when they had like Charles Woodson. I haven't felt things about Michigan football since Denard Robinson graduated. But I still hate Ohio State. That's how those allegiances work. That's how those have altered me. I may not root for the team anymore, but I still hate the enemy. And I love watching North Carolina lose. Anyway, that's a long digression there. But I gave you VCU over UNC. I gave you Texas over BYU. We're going to wrap this all back around what we were talking about before we went way down a fork in the road. A.J. DeBonce was awesome for BYU. 35-10 last night. BYU didn't have enough good players other than DeBonce to have much of a tournament shelf life, but DeBonce delivered the goods. You don't think Darren Peterson noticed that DeBonce was lights out in his tournament game? You don't think Peterson might be aware that the buzz now is that DeBonce is going to go number 1 in the NBA draft? Everyone will tell you that Peterson's really introverted, doesn't let the outside talk affect him much. And I believe that to an extent. But I also remember the first half of that BYU game at Allen Fieldhouse. Before he cramped up, Darren Peterson went out in that game on a mission. He said on that night, I'm going to prove who the baddest dude in this building is, and it's not the guy playing for the other team. It's me. I think Darren Peterson is going to be on a mission in this NCAA tournament, and I think we're going to see that tonight because nobody for Cal Baptist can stay in front of him. Nobody's going to be able to guard him, keep him off his spots. We could see something special from DP tonight, and I think we're going to see some special stuff from Peterson as long as KU's in the tournament. There might not be enough shooting. There might not be enough depth. They might bump their heads against a team that's just better than they are when they run into, maybe it's Duke in the Sweet 16. Maybe it's St. John's on Sunday in a matchup there. But as long as KU's in the tournament, I think DP is going to deliver the goods. We'll take a timeout here at 580 Sports Talk. Your thoughts, 785-272-9429. Your reaction on the YouTube live chat, 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we're going to continue our countdown to Royals opening day. We got 2 hours today. We're cramming everything from 3 hours into 2. Are we watching the last Royal to ever wear the number 7? Think on that. We'll come back. Matt Derrick joins us in about 10 minutes as well, our Chiefs insider. We got a great show for you here on this Friday. Thanks for being with us on 580 Sports Talk. 3:31, we're just getting rolling on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Utah State out to a 5-point lead on Villanova, about 12 and a half to go in the first half in that first-round matchup in San Diego. Now it's a 7-point Utah State lead. Iowa State manhandling Tennessee State, even without the injured Joshua Jefferson. Alabama up 4 on Hofstra. The second half of that one is just underway. Miami, Ohio, and Tennessee going to tip here in mere moments. The 8th and final game of the early portion of today's basketball games. By the way, don't know if you guys saw this stat, but if it feels to you like this has been a more entertaining tournament than last year, you're not wrong. There were 5 games in yesterday's schedule, 5 of the 16, that were decided by one score. And one score in basketball is 3 points or fewer, right? 5 one-score games yesterday. There were 4 in the entire 2 days of the first round last year. And now we haven't had a one-score game yet today, but Kentucky and Santa Clara, for all intents and purposes, with that dramatic finish, was another great one. So, we've had some good basketball so far, and long may it continue. We're going to get more into some hoops coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. I do want to talk about this. We continue our countdown to Royals opening day. We're at a week, folks. 7 days to baseball, which means we're 5 days away from the first actual game of the season, and we're 6 days away from full-scale opening day, and when we're 7 days away from the Royals opening, and I don't know why they're doing it like that, but they are. Anyhow, 7 is obviously the number being worn by Bobby Witt Jr. Is any Royal going to wear it after him? The Royals have 3 numbers retired, 4 if you count Jackie Robinson, which is a league-wide retirement. George Brett's the greatest Royal ever. Dick Hauser managed the team to a championship and then died a tragic and untimely death. And Frank White is a local baseball legend. I included the qualifier baseball there. I know some people aren't thrilled with Frank White's political career, but local baseball legend Frank White. There's a special case there to retire his number for sure. That's it. For the Royals, have been around, getting close to 60 years of baseball, 3 retired numbers. Now, there are a couple numbers as we've gone through this countdown that you've maybe discovered with me are out of circulation. Giordano Ventura's number 30 hasn't been handed out since his death, with the exception being Danny Duffy wearing it as a tribute to his late friend. Number 29 hasn't been handed out since Mike Sweeney left the club. And that may have been not just for Sweeney. I think it was more so about Dan Quisenberry, who is an all-time Royal great who also died an untimely death. So the Royals don't retire a lot of numbers as a matter of course. I think they're going to retire number 13. I think Salvador Perez's number is going to be retired. What about Bobby Witt Jr.? He's got a chance to be the best Royal since Brett, maybe the best one ever by the time it's all said and done. Of course, that will depend on can they keep Bobby Witt in a Royals uniform. Which they'd better. I mean, it's nice to think about Bobby Witt Jr. being a one-club guy like George Brett was, like Frank White was, like Salvador Perez has been and probably will be. But the Royals, they got to commit everything to making sure that's the truth for Bobby Witt Jr. too. Do whatever it takes. Move whatever mountain you got to move. Maybe that's part of why they're pushing for that new ballpark. Revenue from the new ballpark. Revenue from increased attendance. That's what you're going to need to keep Bobby Witt Jr. from all those opt-outs in his contract. Keep him coming back to Kansas City year after year. Because I'll say this, a player that good, with a chance to have the prime that Bobby Witt Jr. is starting to embark on, if he's not the last guy to wear number 7 for the Kansas City Royals, somebody messed up. Either him or the person writing the checks. When we come back, we're going to pivot again. Some sharp pivots in a 2-hour show. Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com will join us. Our Chiefs Insiders next on 580 Sports Talk. We go to Kansas City for our Chiefs insider. His name is Matt Derrick. He joins us every Friday on the program at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt covers the Chiefs at ChiefsDigest.com. Boy, a lot has happened since the last time we got to talk, Matt, so we'll just kind of try and wind through it, recap it as best we possibly can, but I want to start here. Chiefs made no bones about what they wanted to upgrade. They wasted no time in the the legal tampering period, got something done with Kenneth Walker, and the Chiefs addressed their biggest offensive need with probably the best player available at the position. How do you envision Kenneth Walker changing the Chiefs' offense?
I mean, I think it's going to say a lot about the fact that right now the Chiefs, assuming Patrick Mahomes is healthy, which is still debatable, but right now the Chiefs would be in line to go into this season with pretty much two new offensive starters on an offense that was not good last year. And those new starters are going to be whomever replaces Hollywood Brown, but could just be Tyquan Thornton stepping in, so not even really much of a change there, and Kenneth Walker. That, I think, tells you, especially when you couple it with what Brett Veach and Andy Reid said during the offseason and after the season, in Andy Reid's own words, no one respected their run game last year. They have to respect it now. The Chiefs faced the most six-man boxes in the league last year. Kenneth Walker, I believe, faced the fewest and the most seven-man boxes in the league last year. That completely changes defenses. I mean, now you're going to have a lot of times you're going to have maybe an extra linebacker on the field rather than an extra defensive back. You're going to see a lot of one-on-one matchups. It's going to be more difficult to double team anybody that you want to, whether it's Kelsey or Worthy or Rice or whomever the hot hand ends up being. It's just going to be more difficult across the board. And we know that in those situations, when the Chiefs have been able to get those matchups in the past, Patrick Mahomes is a different quarterback. So I think the Chiefs, with their actions, are speaking volumes about what they think that one position change can do to this team. And Dan, I'm assuming you're pretty conflicted about this.
Yeah, it is a little conflicted. I'm glad I get to keep watching him. Glad I get to keep being invested in his success. He's a fun player, as everybody got to see in the NFC playoffs and the Super Bowl this year. Does his acquisition lead to a different looking running game, and not just from the perspective of what his explosiveness and his speed can do, but how the Chiefs want to get to their running game? Kenneth Walker was not an RPO running back in Seattle. That was not what they were running. They were running a lot from under center behind that offensive line. The Chiefs, I think, have a better offensive line than Seattle does. Do we see finally more of that under center running game that the Chiefs had paid lip service towards pivoting to last year, but never really did?
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because obviously we know Andy Reid was a bit of an early adopter to the RPOs, and they unfortunately, I think, became so reliant upon them, even when they were running well, that it made them a little bit predictable. And, going under center, I mean, even though they still ran the ball a lot when they did go under center, and that was a little bit of a tell, they were still better at it than out of the RPOs because they were just really bad running out of the RPOs. I think Kenneth Walker actually could be a really good back, and I think he's a good back however and whenever you get him the ball. He is one of maybe perhaps the most patient runner in the league these days. And that is going to be a complete and opposite reverse from what they've had in Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, who are two of the least patient running backs in the league. I'm eager to see what Kenneth Walker's going to do behind that offensive line, because that's a good blocking offensive line for runners. And the fact that it just hasn't clicked the last couple of years I think it's more of an indictment on the backs than it is on the scheme or the execution or anything else. Because really, since that injury to Pacheco and that lower body injury and the leg injury, he just hasn't had the same explosiveness. And Kareem, at this point in his career, isn't an explosive guy. He's more of a power runner. So I think this is going to change things dramatically from that standpoint. And how much would it affect the play calling? Walker was probably going to get asked to do a couple of things that he didn't do a ton in Seattle. And catching the ball out of the backfield is one of them. I don't think that's going to be a huge problem because, hands haven't been an issue. It's just that Seattle chose to pretty much throw him a lot of screens and balls behind the line of scrimmage. I think if I'm right, Dan, I mean, I think his average depth of target in his NFL career is like 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, but he also still averages like 10 plus yards per catch. So, I mean, that once again, that just tells you how patient and effective a runner he is with the ball in his hands.
Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest is our guest, our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Outside of Walker, which Chiefs signing so far do you expect will be the most positively impactful for the Chiefs in 2026?
That is a really good question because I've been thinking about it a lot, and my answer probably changes on a day-to-day basis, depending on what kind of maybe a mood I'm in or anything like that. I really like the Alohi Gilman signing. I think it was a cost-effective signing, especially when you compare it to the Brian Cook deal that he got with Cincinnati. He's more of a true free safety, and that's something that the Chiefs have lacked on the back end. Cook is not super fast, but he's super reactive, and that was kind of his skill set. Although I think it's probably a little bit slower after that ankle injury on the ankle and the foot that was already dinged up. So I think in many ways Gilman might be an upgrade from Cook, and I say that as a big fan of Brian Cook. But I think that Gilman's just better suited for what the Chiefs and what Steve Spagnuolo and Dave Merritt are going to ask out of that free safety and that guy in the back end. So I think he might be the most surprising and effective signing outside of Walker, and the one I'm most eager to see.
Kader Kohou was injured last year, didn't really get a chance to play. When he has been on the field, he's played both inside and outside, played a lot of slot snaps in his last full season. Do you think that he is brought in with the idea that he will be the primary slot defender and that would shift Shamari Connor to more of a box safety role instead of a slot defender role next year, just with the personnel that is currently on hand pre-draft?
It's interesting, and just because Steve Spagnuolo loves Shamari Connor, I almost think he can do no wrong. And I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But he likes him, so I think you're still going to see Connor in there. If Kohou is healthy, which is going to be a question mark because coming off the ACL, it's always a question mark. If he's healthy, he is probably their best slot corner. But, is it going to end up being a little bit, I don't want to say a lot like Trent McDuffie, because I don't think he's going to necessarily be a full-time player. I think especially coming off the ACL, but Kohou in his past has, I think, been more effective when he's been a rotational piece and more of just strictly slot and not moving him and switching him outside a lot. I think that would probably allow him to be the best version of himself. But I also could see him being more like the Chiefs have had in the past, where he's the cornerback version of Shamari Connor. And the Chiefs had a little bit of that last year with Chris Roland Wallace, although Wallace didn't get to play a lot before the injury. But maybe go back all the way to Tyrann Mathieu and Kendall Fuller, when Fuller was kind of the cornerback version when they wanted a corner in the slot, and Mathieu was the guy. And sometimes, a lot of times, those guys were on the field at the same time, and they just changed their coverage based on the alignment that they were facing, and those two guys could switch around. Kohou can do the same thing, and you've got Connor and him on the field at the same time, and it allows Spagnuolo and Merritt to kind of match up their defense a little bit better. That could make this defense a little bit more potent and effective, especially in pass coverage. So we'll see how they use it. I'm still expecting that Shamari Connor is going to play a lot of slot. If Kader Kohou is who the Chiefs think that he can be, then I think he's just going to play less this year.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com joining us here on 580 Sports Talk, our Chiefs insider from ChiefsDigest.com. The second wave of free agency is going to hit eventually. We had all the first wave guys in this last week. Still a lot of recognizable names out there, a lot of veterans, a lot of guys maybe coming off of injury. Do the Chiefs have another big name signing in them, recognizable name signing in them in this sort of second wave between now and the draft? Or do you sense that if the Chiefs do spend any more money to the cap, it'll be maybe an injury flyer, maybe a back of the roster guy, maybe a reunion with a veteran player like they've done in the past? How do you sense the Chiefs will approach the second wave of free agency?
Yeah, there's no doubt that they've got a few more holes that they would love to fill. Corner is one, obviously. Defensive line, both edge and tackle still, even with the moves that they've made so far. They would love to be able to add at both those positions. I think they still need a receiver. There's a few spots that they absolutely would still love to get some depth before they go into the draft to just make sure that they don't have to come out of the draft with a certain player at a specific position. When you look at some of the veterans, the veteran edges are pretty pricey. So you probably got to be pretty careful with what you're going for there. I've heard some rumors that, there's mutual interest between the Chiefs and Stephon Diggs on like a very team friendly 1-year prove it deal. And that I think could be interesting. It seems like Calais Campbell comes up as a name repeatedly associated with the Chiefs, but I still think unless his price tag comes down, that's still a difficult one to make work. I think the Chiefs would still love to get something done. The challenge is going to be just cap space because while they still have room that they could squeeze out by restructuring the deals with Creed Humphrey, with Trey Smith, I mean, they prefer not to do it if they don't have to, but they're already right back up against the cap. I think last I saw, I think there may be like top 5, top 10, and as far as cap space remaining. I know Spotrac has them about 8.5. I think that, some of the estimates might be up that it's like maybe up to 13. That's still not a ton of room when you're only counting the top 51 contracts. So they don't have a ton of space. So anybody that they do bring in, the Travis Kelce deal is kind of indicative of that, with the way that they structured that to have his cap hit spread out over 3 seasons.
Last one for you, Matt. What do you make of some of the outside voices, by which I mean national writers, not daily writers on the Chiefs beat, people who cover the Chiefs on a daily basis? What do you make of all of the mock drafts that suggest that the Chiefs could pursue a tackle even as high as the number 9 overall pick in the draft? Because it sure doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
It's good to me either, Dan. And it's funny because I've had this conversation over the last couple of weeks, and especially since the free agency started and the Walker deal going down, about why some national people are writing this and we're not hearing any of that locally. Maybe just the changing of the guard a little bit as far as how, the national reporters get a lot of stuff these days, Dan. I'm not going to lie. A lot of agents and a lot of even executives just bypass and just like we're just going to tell one national guy rather than the local people because it's maybe faster to get the word out. But I've also talked to people on the national level who are like, hey, the national reporters are 30,000 foot view of the team, and they see Juwan Taylor's not there. They don't really understand the value of Jalen Moore and if he fits in. And so I think that that's what a lot of people just don't understand, that Jalen Moore is a decent player and that the Chiefs are happy with him there. That said, I could absolutely see the Chiefs being interested at 29 in a potential tackle because there's going to be some good depth at the tail end of the draft. But by and large, there's only maybe one tackle that's considered a top 10 caliber player. And I think the Chiefs have probably 2 or 3 other needs they'd love to address at 9 rather than right tackle at this point.
Matt Derrick covers the Kansas City Chiefs at ChiefsDigest.com. He is our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk. Joins us every Friday at this time, and it is a pleasure every single time. Matt, great to catch up with you again after last week's hiatus. We'll look forward to doing it again next week.
Sounds great, Dan. I was glad to finally catch up with you on what you thought about Kenneth Walker. So
yeah, absolutely. Real quick before we let you go, Mizzou going to win tonight?
Probably not. But I took him, and I thought I got crazy and took him to the Elite Eight. So they're definitely losing tonight. That's
a true fan. Matt Derrick, ChiefsDigest.com, our favorite Missouri Tiger. We'll catch up next week, Matt.
Take care, Dan.
That is Matt Derrick. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up this 3 o'clock hour with On Second Thought on 580 Sports Talk. My bracket's not too busted up as it currently stands, which is good. I missed on a couple of picks, as most people have. Not looking great for my Hofstra over Alabama pick, though. Alabama has a 13-point lead with about 11 minutes to play in that game in Tampa. The number 4 seed Crimson Tide, who again lost their second leading scorer to a drug charge earlier this week. They don't look like they missed him too bad. Hofstra came out, threw an early punch, took a 9-point lead, but the Alabama might have a little bit more talent than the Pride. Just might still have a talent advantage even without Aiden Holloway out there. Other scores right now, Iowa State cruising on Tennessee State. They're up 33, 8 minutes to go. Villanova up 3 on Utah State. That game late first half. Midway through the first half, Tennessee with a 6-point lead over Miami of Ohio. Just Miami University will suffice. When we come back in the second and today, the final hour of 580 Sports Talk is going to bring you some tournament coverage. Breakaway early at 5 o'clock today. We'll talk some more tournament, including a further look at KU and Cal Baptist later tonight. But we'll talk about that question we just addressed with Matt Derrick. What are the Chiefs going to do in the second wave of NFL free agency? That plus a weekly champion on What Is Wrong With You. That's all coming up on the second and final hour today of What Is Wrong With You, or 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Second and final hour of this Friday here on 580 Sports Talk. We are with you until 5 o'clock today here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you. We're clocking out early to watch and listen to basketball, like so many of you have or will on this Friday. 5 o'clock, we're going to hand the reins to Westwood One. They'll take you the rest of the night with NCAA tournament coverage. We'll take their March Madness mix, so it'll bounce you from game to game. We won't have a featured game for you. Not like our state tournament coverage. We get you a featured game. But no, we're going to have the whip around coverage from Westwood One starting at 5 o'clock on through the remainder of the night here on 580 WIBW. Right now in the NCAA tournament, Hofstra has trimmed Alabama's lead to 5, 6.5 minutes left in that one. They've gone to the halftime between Villanova and Utah State. 2-point lead for the Wildcats over the Aggies in that one, 39-37. Iowa State is raining hellfire on Tennessee State, just shooting the bejesus out of the ball. They're going to have to if Joshua Jefferson doesn't return to play. He's not going to return to play today, obviously. Suffered what looked like a pretty gnarly ankle injury and was doubtful to return. So his status for Sunday is certainly in question when they'll play Kentucky. The other game ongoing, 7 minutes left, first half, Tennessee up 13 on Miami University. That's your latest check of the tournament. We'll get back into it a little bit later on in this hour of the show. Also going to talk some Chiefs free agency this hour of the program and crown a weekly champion on What Is Wrong With You. You can interact with us today on our text line. Shoot us a text. 785-272-9429 is the number, 785-272-9429. You can also interact in the live chat on our YouTube channel. 580 Sports Talk is the name of that YouTube channel. Go subscribe. Get us to a round number today to end the week. We're at 939. Get us to 940 today. Who is our hero listening that is going to go subscribe to our YouTube channel before we're off the air today and get us to a nice round 940 subscribers? Is it you? Doesn't cost you anything but a click. Go check us out, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. And hop in the chat today with your favorite Chuck Norris fact in honor of the late, great star of stage and screen. I guess star of just screen. I don't know. He really did a lot of Broadway, but you know what I mean. Chuck Norris, dead at 86. Do you have a favorite Chuck Norris fact? Spencer Dupuis.
No, but I just like to say Chuck Norris. I don't know where that came from in my childhood, but that was a thing. I have no clue the relevance to anything, but just like going Chuck Norris.
I do not. I have no reference for that.
Yeah.
I can tell you that Chuck Norris counted to infinity twice. That's my favorite Chuck Norris fact. There's some good ones in the chat too. Paul's kind of bringing the heat there, but have some good ones in the chat. So share your favorite one in the live chat or on our text line 785-272-9429. Also, tell us how your bracket's doing, because I'm going to tell you who doesn't care. Most people, but we're not most people. We're your friends on the radio, so we want to hear how your bracket is faring through almost 6 of the 8 sessions of the first round. Text us. Let us know in the YouTube chat how your bracket looks. Spencer, how's your bracket look?
Not great, but not bad.
So you've had some hits and misses to say?
Let's just say BYU and Ohio State. Well, BYU mostly. Are
you down any Sweet 16 teams yet?
Let's see. Double checking here.
Because that's where you win your bracket pool. Okay.
I am not down any Sweet 16 teams as of this moment.
Yes, my Sweet 16 is intact. That's what's really important here. You can run up a nice little score on the first 2 days by, dart throwing at some upsets and hitting on the right ones. But you win this tournament on the second weekend and in the Final Four and in the championship. I am in the 76th percentile over at ESPN, and I currently rank in a tie for 50th in the 580 Sports Talk Ball Knowers pool. We got 159 people into the pool, which is great to see. If you are in that pool and you would like to know,
count 157 because 2 people didn't submit brackets.
Okay.
They're just in the group.
159 entrants, 157 brackets. That is critical. What is the name of your bracket, Spencer? If people want to follow along and see how the 580 Sports Talk crew is doing, what did you name your bracket?
Spencer 4846's picks 1. I don't know. That's just
very imaginative.
I never changed it. I might change it. But can we talk about Brendan's?
Because we're gonna get there.
So
I'm looking for yours. I'm looking for Spencer.
I'm in the 18th place.
Oh, you're in 18th?
Somewhere tied for 18th.
You were too modest.
So
where are you at?
I'm at the top of page 2.
Yep, there you are. Yep. Spencer 4846's picks 1. That is Spencer Dupuis. My bracket is named Bruce Pearl Makes Me Hurl. If you are in the pool, that is the name of my bracket. I hate that dude. I don't like watching him on TV. I don't like listening to him. He was a scumbag as a coach, just pure scum, like the worst of college basketball, Bruce Pearl. And he's going to be like the in-studio face and voice of Turner's coverage for as long as he wants to be. And I think that sucks. So Bruce Pearl Makes Me Hurl is the name of my bracket in the 580 Sports Talk Ball Knowers pool. Brendan Dworzinski, who is off today, his bracket is called RIP Pyramid Pizza. That's a very Lawrence reference, very KU reference. He did the thing that he always does. He picked KU to win the title. He hesitated on doing the bit this year.
Yeah.
I know from talking to him personally, but he went through with it. He is 151st.
So go to the last page.
Yeah, you find him almost dead last, almost DFL, tied for 151st out of 159. But again, standings right now don't really matter. How do you do in the second weekend? How do your Final Four and your championship pick come out? That's where these things are won and lost.
Yeah.
Just remember that if you're buried at the bottom. Big shout out to current bracket leader, Tom Breyer 2 is the name of the bracket. No points for originality, but big points for having correctly picked 19 of the 20 first-round games so far.
The only game he didn't pick correctly was UNC.
Oh, Carolina?
He picked Carolina over VCU, which was a great game last night going in overtime.
Interesting. Let's see who our bracket leader has. Virginia as the only non-1 seed in his Final Four, and he has Duke in the championship slot. So, we'll continue to update you on that when we come back next week for the start of the second weekend of the NCAA tournament.
He might be it's only halftime, but he picked Utah State over Villanova.
2-point game there. Could go either way. I also picked Utah State in that one.
That looks to be his only questionable one currently going on though at the moment, because he's got Iowa State and Iowa State is rolling.
Yeah. Thought you had it, Hofstra. Great start.
Yeah.
Great start, but doesn't look like they have enough steam to hang with the Crimson Tide. 8-point game, 4 minutes left. Stranger things have happened. Anyhow, let's get to some football. 2 names to talk about. One based on a Nate Taylor piece at ESPN.com. One based on Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider, who we just talked to here on the program, gave us another one. But when we were going through what the Chiefs' likely starting lineup or the top of their depth chart looks like right this second after the first wave of free agency, it's real obvious the Chiefs need immediate help at edge and wide receiver. And we knew that going into the offseason, and the Chiefs didn't really address those positions yet. They did bring Tyquan Thornton back, and he can help a wide receiver room. I think he makes the Chiefs wide receiver room better. But a wide receiver core of Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton, Jalen Royals, and right now wide receiver 5 is Nico Remigio. That ain't going to cut it. You don't need me to tell you that. Also, right now, Ashton Gelati is penciled in as a starter on the edge, opposite George Karlaftis. And I like Gelati. I think he can be better year 2 than in year 1. But I also think if you're asking him to play starter reps, you're asking for some trouble. So as the second wave of free agency picks up, which it will eventually, you can go and look at the list. You go to Spotrac, there's a comprehensive list of all the guys who are still out there, all the guys who are still free agents. And it's a lot of famous guys in their 30s that are still out there waiting for contracts. So there are a lot of famous guys waiting for contracts at those positions of need for the Chiefs, wide receiver and edge. And one of them came up today in Nate Taylor's article. Nate Taylor, Chiefs beat writer at ESPN.com. And he writes, quote, moving forward in free agency, the Chiefs are a possible destination for pass rusher Cameron Jordan, according to a league source. The 15-year veteran spent last season with the New Orleans Saints, recording 10.5 sacks, 15 quarterback hits, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. That would have made him the best pass rusher on the Chiefs by miles. He would have led the Chiefs in sacks with that number last year. Chris Jones revealed that he was pitching the idea of Jordan joining the Chiefs by posting his name on his X account last week. If Jordan did join the Chiefs, he would give them a clear upgrade on the edge while playing opposite defensive end George Karlaftis. I'm still reading from Taylor here. The Chiefs entered Thursday with around $10 million in salary cap space. In order to sign Jordan, the Chiefs could create more cap space by restructuring the contracts of Jones and center Creed Humphrey. We all talked about the extent or the restructuring of Chris Jones kind of as a fait accompli. That's a card that the Chiefs can play to create more salary cap room, and they haven't played that card yet. And Matt Derrick just told us, we had him on bottom of the 3 o'clock hour as our Chiefs insider. The Chiefs don't love to do that. No team really likes doing that because you're just kicking salary cap obligations down the road. You have to pay those guys eventually. And you don't want to do it too much, be too reliant on it, because then you end up in the situation where, ironically enough, given the player we're talking about here, where the New Orleans Saints have been the last handful of years, where their hands have just totally been tied in the salary cap. So it's not something the Chiefs prefer, but if they've only got around $10 million in salary cap space right now, and they got to sign all their draft picks, and they've got 2 first-rounders, and one of those is a top 10 pick, and they still need to add to this roster from free agency, yeah, they're going to need more than $10 million in cap space. So the Jones restructuring is going to get done. It's just not the card they've played yet.
Yeah.
Could restructure Creed Humphrey. They could maybe even restructure Trey Smith. They could cut Noah Gray, but I think that ship has sailed. I think they're going to keep him. Cameron Jordan, 10.5 sacks last year. Lifelong Saint. He's out there. There are a bunch of other, again, famous defensive ends who are probably more famous than good at this stage in their careers. A lot of them on the wrong side of 30. Guys like Joey Bosa, guys like Von Miller, guys like Leonard Floyd, lesser caliber player Hassan Reddick, Dante Fowler, Kyle Van Noy, Jadeveon Clowney's out there. Guys like that. To me, I look at Jordan as the best mix between production and value. Like you'd expect a certain amount of production from like Joey Bosa if he can stay on the field, or Von Miller. I think you expect production from a guy who had 10.5 sacks last year in Cameron Jordan. But I think you would also expect that deal to be relatively affordable to the cap. Spotrac's projected market value for Jordan is $6.8 million. I think if you could do an incentive-laden deal that could take him up to $10 million in that range, $10 to $12 million in incentives, if he meets a bunch of different benchmarks, so then you're not playing with as much cap space, I think that makes a lot of sense. And Jordan's the kind of player, too, who might be in that ring-chasing stage of his career where he's looking to end it on a high note with a different team like we've seen so many great pass rushers do in the past. I really am fond of this idea. I know that the 2 previous years for Jordan weren't the most productive. He had 4 sacks in 2024. He only had 2 in 2023. But last year was a bit of a renaissance for him. You're going to have to rotate him. He's probably not the 73 to 75% of snaps player that he used to be, or the 90% of snap player that he was in his youth and his prime. But as a rotational piece with the ability to get to the quarterback, I think the Chiefs could do a whole lot worse. I'm really in favor of this, Spencer. How do you feel about it?
I think it could be a move for the Chiefs at this point. Obviously, there's nobody really, left that's elite or that they're in their market or in their budget besides Cam Jordan. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they hold off and maybe a guy down the line in training camp signs like Von Miller. It depends how much money
and
he
Jordan
wants.
might be one of those guys too.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, like we're at the point where guys might just be like, well, call me when somebody gets hurt in camp.
Yeah. There are some veteran guys. Like the assumption is that's Calais Campbell's market right now. Is that Calais Campbell is telling teams, look, I'm not trying to go training camp with y'all. Just call me in August.
Yeah,
I'm going into hibernation. I'm 40 years old, man. Call me in August. And so maybe that is the market for even a guy like Bosa, who's younger than that Miller and Jordan cohort, but has a lot of wear on his tires.
Yeah,
maybe he's a guy who signs kind of late into the process. But yeah, it was obvious the Chiefs, as soon as they went big on the Kenneth Walker signing, they weren't going to be able to go in that $15 to $25 million range for a defensive end in free agency, that they'd price themselves out of guys like Kwity Paye or Odafe Owe. Even Bradley Chubb got $14.5 million from the Bills, which is so on brand for the Bills.
Yeah.
Like all the best there, Brandon Beane. All the best. But I do think that the Chiefs obviously need to add a veteran there. Like, there's no if, and, or but about it. They have to add a veteran at edge. And I think if you're looking for somebody who's going to be the most productive, bring some veteran leadership, bring some ring-chasing desire, a little bit of competitive edge, Jordan, to me, is my favorite player on the list. I like him better than Miller at this stage, who I just think is crocked. I think the injuries have done him in. I think Bosa's injuries have limited his effectiveness. I like Danico Autry. You might be able to get him for cheaper. He might be an awkward fit in their scheme, but I like Danico Autry as a possibility as well. But if Chris Jones is like openly recruiting Cameron Jordan, and there are league sources out there saying, yeah, there might be some mutual interest here, then that could get done. And I think that would be a really positive addition for the Chiefs. The other position is wide receiver. And we just had Matt Derrick on the program in the 3 o'clock hour. And he mentioned that he has been hearing that there is some mutual interest between the Chiefs and Stephon Diggs. Diggs, of course, let go by New England, caught 85 balls for over 1,000 yards last year. He would have been the Chiefs' best wide receiver in 2025. Are we putting together a all allegations wide receiver? Yes, team? all miscreant wide receiver room. Yeah, I know, right? Like, there is that. There are like real abuse allegations hanging over Stephon Diggs. His personal reputation is not particularly stellar. Let's just say he stays busy off the field, by all accounts. Yeah, he stays busy off the field, but productive. And was, I think, well-respected in that New England locker room as a veteran leader of that receiver group, and somebody who I think still has some good football left in them because, I mean, gosh, Diggs bounced back from a torn ACL, played all 17 games for New England, and went back over 1,000 yards. Yeah. I mean, I think he can still play. The question there, well, let me phrase it like this. If the choice is between Diggs or Tyreek Hill, on incentive-laden one-year contracts, I don't even think it's close. I'd rather have Diggs. Yeah, well, we don't know when Tyreek's going to be available. Yeah, that's the biggest part of it, right? There's availability. Like, if it were both players are going to be healthy, full go week one, then I think it's a different conversation. Yeah, slightly. But Diggs, to me, like, if you're going to get 17 games or something close to it out of Stephon Diggs, I think he would be the best wide receiver. But is he going to get suspended, or are we looking at way down the line? That is an open question, and I think why he's still around, floating around as the second wave of free agency begins. But it's interesting that there is mutual interest, and that the Chiefs would have interest in a player who might be facing NFL discipline, while their incumbent wide receiver one also could potentially face some discipline. Yeah, text from the 785. We don't need more off-field issue players. I'd rather have Juwan Jennings or Brandon Ayuk on a one-year prove-it deal. Brandon Ayuk is still technically a 49er.
Yeah, I don't understand what's going on there because apparently he wants to go to the Commanders, but everybody I've seen is like he can't go because guess what? He's still a member of the 49ers.
Yeah, he's still on the 49ers. There's some real questions about like his like where he's at, just like his headspace. Regarding like football and what kind of teammate he wants to be and things like that, the way he shut it down on the 49ers last year. I think that's an issue. Like to me, that's a bit bigger issue like in the clubhouse than any of the baggage that Stephon Diggs would bring.
Yeah.
Potentially to the team. Because teams are able to compartmentalize, right? Like it's not good what Stephon Diggs is alleged to have done. It's actually really awful. But teams given the choice between, all right, this guy screwed up off the field to this guy quit on his team, like they're going to take the guy who screwed up off the field more so than the guy who maybe isn't real well respected in his own locker room. Juwan Jennings, Spotrac still thinks he's going to get a bag. Juwan Jennings' projected market value at Spotrac is $22.6 million a year. He's coming off a season where he caught 9 touchdowns and he caught 55 passes. He caught 77 passes the year before that. I don't see that kind of contract at all for Juwan Jennings. And the longer he's out there, the more that his value slips. You would imagine the less likely teams are going to be to hand out that kind of contract. I like that Jennings has some size at 6'3". That's an element that the Chiefs don't have at wide receiver. You could certainly talk me into that. Also, he's been the gadget player who throws passes to Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Like, he did that in the Super Bowl, right? And then he also did it in the wild card round this year, threw a touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey, which makes him, in my opinion, a better passer than Justin Fields. So you could have a better option to start week 1 at quarterback than Justin Fields, unless you were going to run the veer. So, sure. I don't hate that idea, but I think the assumption is that there's still a multi-year deal out there for Jennings, and I don't know that the Chiefs are really in the business of handing out a multi-year deal to a wide receiver right now that hasn't been in the room. Paul also in favor of the idea of adding Juwan Jennings as long as that's not the most significant investment in the wide receiver position. The other part, too, about wide receiver, real quick, before we wrap up the conversation here, how many are going to be on the roster? Because if the Chiefs decide to bring Kareem Hunt back, and I think there's a case that could be made for doing that, for bringing Kareem Hunt back, for having him be a pass protector on third down and a short yardage running back option, and then your running back room is Kenneth Walker, Amari DeMercado, Kareem Hunt, and Rashard Smith, because I think Smith is going to be the return man this year. I know the Chiefs re-signed Remigio, but I think Smith is better at that job than Remigio is. So I think Smith is going to be the return man. But if they keep 4 running backs, what if they only keep 5 wide receivers? So that leaves you Rice, Worthy, Thornton, Royals, and one other spot for a wide receiver. Do you want to fill that
Brownlee?
right? Remigio? Or do you wait to see if you can fill that spot in the draft and then maybe come back to that after the draft is over? I could see them doing that. I could see them, like, you want to talk about guys waiting until training camp. Juju Smith-Schuster, you're the break glass in case of emergency. If we don't have any better options, come on back. You'd be our 5th wide receiver next year. And honestly, I think that's more likely than laying out, like, unless it was super incentive laden, I don't think they're going to lay out a ton of money for Diggs. I don't think they're going to lay out a ton of money for Hill. I don't think they're going to lay out a ton of money. Right. Yeah, where's it coming from? Especially, I would rather, if you're going to spend right now on a veteran in free agency, I would much rather be at edge. I would much rather Cameron Jordan get that money than Stephon Diggs get that money. Not because Diggs isn't a good player or because the Chiefs don't have a need at wide receiver. I just think the veteran need at edge is a lot more pressing, especially because you don't know how that draft board is going to fall to you. If you got a chance to take David Bailey and Reuben Bain, you might feel like, or Reuben Bain, I guess you feel like, yeah, we'll take one of those guys. They'll start. Now we feel a lot better about our defensive end rotation. But maybe you don't get those guys. Maybe you wind up with like Keldrick Falk at number Felix and calling it good at edge. Now you got to go get one more guy. So if they're going to lay out some more money and waive to a free agency, I would much rather be at edge than a wide receiver. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we got What Is Wrong With You? We're going to crown a weekly champion here on 580 Sports Talk. It is time for What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. We got two news stories competing today. Try and take down our weekly champion currently and become the weekly champion for the week. Our current champ, Keep the Change, the inmate in South Carolina who was issued a $250 bond. That's pretty light work for a bond, honestly. Bond can be a lot higher than that sometimes. Rather than call a bondsman, loan him the $250, he had it on him. He had $300 on him. He threw $300 bills at the judge, told the judge to keep the change. Problem was the bills were counterfeit, and now he's got a bigger problem and a lot higher bond. Brothers, call a bondsman next time. Don't mess around with the money, especially when it's like obviously fake. Like this wasn't even like good fake. This had Chinese writing on the back of the cash. Wasn't even good forgery. So our guy's got even bigger problems now. I will go with my story first. Are you familiar with Moo Dang, Spencer?
Can't say it.
That is the adorable pygmy hippo who captured the hearts of a nation and a world when he became a social media sensation at the zoo in Bangkok, Thailand. Very tiny hippo, very cute. Everybody loves Moo Dang. Anyway, a lot of people love Moo Dang so much that they go to the zoo and they take pictures. Hippo is one of my favorite animals at the zoo. I have so much respect for the hippo. They lay around, they take naps whenever they want. Sometimes they lay in the water to cool off. They poop wherever they want to. Like, huge respect for the hippo here. I'm a big hippo guy. I like going to see the hippo at the Topeka Zoo. Anyway, a lot of people like to go see Moo Dang because Moo Dang is a famous hippo.
Yeah.
And so they go and they take pictures. And one guy took it a little too far and went into the enclosure. And he has been arrested. The Thai man allegedly entered the enclosure on Tuesday while a keeper was away and no other visitors were around. A man wearing black beanie, sunglasses, a green tank top, and brown shorts is seen in security footage approaching Moo Dang and her mother while holding a tablet, apparently recording or taking photos. The man remained inside the enclosure for a minute or two before staff noticed him. What is wrong with you, the staff? Hey, listen, I don't know what other animals you got at the Cow Cows Open Zoo, but I know they're not as famous as Moo Dang. You got to keep the people away from your big merchandise. Anyway, the man did not attempt to flee while the zoo called for police. The man has initially been charged with trespassing, but the investigation is still ongoing. The zoo intends to pursue all available legal action. The man has been released on bail. Moo Dang and her mother were safe. The man did not try and touch them, but they were slightly startled by the encounter and will be monitored closely by a veterinarian. Don't scare the animals, man. Come on. Hop into the enclosure. I don't know. This will be fine. There's a broader, societal trend that people just don't think rules apply to them. You know how many people I've seen run red lights lately?
A lot.
It happens all the time now. I feel like I never used to see that. People just, like the arrow, Huntoon and Wanamaker. Oh, that arrow's red, but I still got time. I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
The number of times I've been the first car in line to cross back and head, that would be east on Huntoon, and had somebody, then had the light go green, and then somebody late turning across from me, turning on the red light. I need more than one hand to count the number of times that's happened. It's just a larger societal trend. People just don't think rules apply to them anymore. Yeah. I can go into I'm special. I can go into the hippo enclosure. I'm gonna pet Moo Dang. Jackass. That makes me so mad. All right, what's your story today?
Imagine you were loitering and prowling, and the cops found you, and you just decided to, and you were close to water, a river specifically. So you found a paddle boat and started to run away from the police who were pursuing you. That's what Florida man Chase Cruz was doing. A pair of law enforcement officers jumped on paddle boards to apprehend the fleeing suspect. Officers with the Volusia County Sheriff's Office and Daytona Beach Shores Police were in the process of questioning the 28-year-old when he attempted to escape on foot in Volusia County. Body cam footage shows the moment Cruz took off running as police were informing him of his rights. He subsequently jumped in the nearby Halifax River, forcing deputies to enter the water to reach him. As he was swimming, they took the paddle boats on to finally apprehend him. There's funny video and pictures of him being apprehended. Once officers entered the water to tie a flotation device to him, they pulled him out. They returned to shore with him in tow, took him into custody. He was charged with loitering, prowling, as well as resisting arrest.
The idea of a paddleboard chase is extremely funny. I think about that line from The Simpsons. It would take me too long to explain the plot, but just the line that I think about is, "He's gradually getting away, Chief." That's what that guy was doing on his paddleboard. He's gradually getting away. How are we going to catch him? Grab one of them other paddle boats, man. You got to be faster than he is.
Yeah.
Where's he going to go? How far is he going to take this? So, that's really funny. I think that's going to be the winner today. The other one just makes me mad.
Yeah.
The idea of a paddleboard chase is very, very funny. I do not think it beats. You only had $250 bond. Just come up with $250 and you can go home and deal with your trespassing charge another day. You can just go home. Instead, he thought you'd be cute tell the judge to keep the change.
Can't you just call a bondsman at that point?
Yes, make your phone call to, Big Daddy's bail bonds or whatever it's called. Every city in America's got a Big Daddy's bail bonds, it feels like, or something like that. Like Big Man's bail bonds.
Just call the bail bondsman, owe him money.
Tough Ted's bail bonds.
And then you don't get yourself in more trouble.
You don't get yourself in more trouble. Keep the change is our weekly champion on What Is Wrong With You. When we come back, the biggest keys to victory for KU tonight against Cal Baptist in the NCAA tournament. We'll talk about it on 580 WIBW. .444 on 580 Sports Talk. We're coming down the home stretch on the show today. We are off at 5 o'clock because, like many of you, we want to skip work to watch basketball. So that's not, it is what we're going to do. But that's what we're kind of doing here on 580 WIBW. We're going to pick up Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA basketball tournament at 5 o'clock. You should be able to catch the very end of Utah State Villanova. Villanova with a 4-point lead, 14 and a half minutes to go in that 8-9 game. They're at the half. Tennessee crushing Miami of Ohio, 51-32. So not much drama left in that one. Looks like that's where it's going to come to an end for Miami University. Get ready for Bruce Pearl to be the smuggest possible human being alive on Turner's studio coverage tonight. Can't wait for that.
Look, they won their play-in game.
They did. They won
the game to say they deserve to be there, but they didn't deserve to win.
Well,
in the tournament. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it looks like Tennessee's playing really well, and Miami, Ohio isn't. I don't think. Look, if you're going to tell me that a team that won its entire regular season didn't lose any games, I don't care who they play. They went an entire regular season and didn't lose any games. They should be in the NCAA.
You can only play the teams on your schedule.
That's exactly right.
If people don't schedule, that's their fault.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. If you go undefeated, you should be in the NCAA tournament. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You should be in the NCAA tournament. Otherwise, why do we have a regular season? Why do we play games? Let's just pick the tournament by Ken Pom numbers. Just take the top 68 from Ken Pom and call it a day. And that wouldn't be much fun. It does make the tournament fun hanging on every basket from High Point, rooting for Siena to hold a 13-point second half lead over Duke, even if they don't do it.
Did you know their gym is bigger than the indoor, the Cameron Indoor, whatever they call it?
Like, well, they play Siena. Where do they play?
They play in New York.
Right. You mean their capacity or the square footage?
No, like the capacity of the crowd is larger.
Huh. That I did not know. I genuinely did not know that. I know they have a live dog mascot named Baloo, who's adorable.
Yeah, they play at MVP Arena.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
they're in Albany.
Yeah, they're in Albany. That's right. So yeah, that's the big arena. That's like a 15,000 seat arena.
Yeah,
yeah. They've had NCAA tournament games there before. Okay, all right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that does. That
is funny though. I mean, I don't know that they sell it out, but still,
I am almost certain they don't. Looks like here, year by year attendance, last year they averaged 5,000 fans a game, which honestly for a program in the MAC, that's not bad.
Did they ever change that name?
No, it's still the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference.
You know what I'm talking about? There was a video that came out between the MAC commissioner and the commissioner of the MAAC or whatever it is.
No, you just elongate the vowel. There's the MAC and the MAC. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
KU tonight. The Jayhawks are scheduled for an 8:45 p.m. Central Time tip-off.
So 9:22 on your CBS.
Is that what it says now?
No, it's just going to be.
Okay.
I feel like any tip that's not the first of the window is always delayed.
Yeah. It is the last game of the night there in San Diego. Number 4 seed Kansas, number 13 seed Cal Baptist. 3 things Kansas has to do to avoid the upset tonight. Number 1, they got to keep Cal Baptist off the offensive glass. When I say Cal Baptist, one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country, I mean they are the 11th best offensive rebounding team in the country. That's not 11th best among mid-majors. That's 11th best amongst everybody.
Yep.
They are one of the very best offensive rebounding teams in America. And as you can imagine, they're able to turn those extra opportunities into points. They rank 48th nationally, again, out of 366 teams in second chance points. Has to keep Cal Baptist off the offense. Rebounding has to be a team effort tonight. Bryson Tiller has to play tough on the interior. Flory Badunga has to be a force on the glass. I know he'll be impactful defensively, but he's got to get his boards. Everybody else, Melvin Council's got to crash glass. Trey White, I feel like this is strictly anecdotal. I don't have any evidence to back this up. But I feel like when Trey White is rebounding at high volume, that gets him more involved in other aspects of the game. I feel like his best games are games where he rebounds a lot.
Yeah.
Again, totally anecdotal. I don't have anything to back this up. Just watching Kansas throughout the year. When Trey White has had good games, it feels like a big part of those good games is that he's rebounding a lot. So he's going to be certainly a factor in keeping Cal Baptist off that offensive glass. But that's the number 1 thing Kansas has to do tonight. The other things they have to do, they have to run off of turnovers. And Kansas has not been a great turnover forcing team this year, but Cal Baptist is turnover prone. They turn the ball over on over 15% of their possessions. So you'd like to think you can use some of your length, some of your athleticism to force them into some bad passes, force them into some steals and some giveaways, and be able to run off of those and get easy offense. Kansas is really good when they push the tempo. They're not really good when the game bogs down to a half-court kind of game. That's not the kind of game you want to play against a Cal Baptist team that is more than happy to play that kind of game. KU's got to avoid that by running off the turnovers. And then the last thing is just be aggressive on offense. Get downhill. Like watching the Duke game yesterday, where, again, they were 27.5-point favorites against Siena, and they were down by 13 early in the second half to a 16 seed who lost 7 conference games in a not very good conference. The thing that stood out about Duke in that game was how willing they were to just stand on the perimeter and fork up 3 after 3 after 3 after 3, and that none of them were going in. Kansas isn't a good enough 3-point shooting team to do that. You can't get lazy and complacent and just jack around with threes all game long. You've got to get downhill. Darren Peterson has to get downhill. Melvin Council has to get downhill. Leave the spot up 3-point shooting for the likes of Trey White.
Yeah.
And get downhill, get to the rim. Because Cal Baptist fouls a lot, too. They got one of the highest foul rates of any team in the country. So get downhill, get to the basket, get to the free throw line. That's how you're going to keep Cal Baptist at arm's length for 40 minutes.
Also, Flory, play like you are going to be the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah,
because he was just named semifinalist.
He was named a semifinalist. I think he should win the award.
Yeah.
I've said as much. I do think he'll have that kind of impact. Cal Baptist's best player is a little guard, average like 23 a game. It's not going to be one of those where they put Flory on him on the perimeter, but KU's got to know to funnel everything to the big fella.
Yeah,
and go from there. Kansas is a 14.5-point favorite according to Prairie Band Sportsbook. Winner of that game will play either Northern Iowa or St. John's. That game is before the KU game. St. John's is a 10.5-point favorite in that one. We'll take one last break here on 580 Sports Talk. Come back with a final word to send you on into the weekend here on 580 WIBW. No, that's not a mistake. We really are wrapping it up here on 580 Sports Talk on this Friday. We're going to hand it off to Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA Tournament. We're going to join it in progress right at the stroke of 5 o'clock. So we're clocking out for the week, which means this is time for the final word. Spencer Dupuis, what you got?
Shout out to the KU and K-State women last night for winning in the WBID on their home floors. KU women came back to beat Troy 79-70. They're going to host Rice Sunday at 5:30. And then the K-State women beat Georgia Tech 69-65. They're going to host Cal Sunday at 6. Going to be on our airwaves, right?
That's right. We will have that game for you on 580 WIBW with a 5:30 pregame. Also on Sunday here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, some K-State baseball, the finale of their big series this weekend against Arizona State at Toynton Family Stadium. 12:30 pregame, 1 o'clock first pitch for that one.
Other than that, excited for a weekend of basketball across everything. It's a nice weekend too, so I think I might watch basketball outside like I did the other night.
Yeah, I don't blame you for that. It has. It's been it's a beautiful day today. Little unseasonable, but look, man, I'm wearing.
I hear 92 in March. That's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. I'm wearing shorts on March 20th. I don't entirely know how I feel about that, but we try to take advantage. I took an hour this morning to take my son to the zoo with my wife who's on spring break. So yeah, we've gotten a chance to enjoy the weather, and hopefully y'all will get a chance to enjoy some of that weather as well. Final word for me in this one. There are going to be baseball games that count next week for the Kansas City Royals. And it's really a strange sort of turnaround because you get excited for pitchers and catchers reporting, you get excited for the start of Cactus League play, and then your attention just gets whipsawed all over the place. For us around here, we had obviously NFL free agency. We had the World Baseball Classic was going on, and we were focused on that. And then we ended up being really focused on state tournament basketball around these parts. And then all of a sudden, all of that stuff ends, and the dust settles, and you look up, and it's almost time for real baseball. The Royals are 1 week away from their opener, and I couldn't be more excited. We're going to do a lot of preview stuff next week. We're going to look into this Royals roster. How real are the chances that the Royals win the American League Central?
Royals baseball on the airwaves Monday night.
Royals baseball on the airwaves Monday night, one of their final exhibition games for the start of the season. We can't wait around here for another season of Royals baseball. That's going to do it for us. Again, Westwood One coverage of the NCAA tournament coming up at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. And then all day tomorrow from tip-off to the end of the final game on Sunday. We got K-State baseball at 12:30, K-State women in the second round of the WBIT at 5:30, and then we'll have Westwood One's coverage of the late games into Sunday as they conclude those second round games. So a weekend full of sports here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you have a safe and fun weekend. And that'll do it for us. For Spencer Dupuis, I'm Dan Lucero, and this was 580 Sports Talk on the Sports Voice of Kansas, WIBW. Good night.